Hey everybody, it's Tanya here.
Today I'm going to have fun doing some painting with blue paints, and you're looking at my blue watercolor palette right now. And we're going to explore some of the different pigments and how they work together, because I wanted to start doing some prompts to create some art. And lately, all over Substack, we are seeing deep blue everything. That's my Pinterest board for today, but these are the colors that I'm seeing everywhere. So I thought it would be fun to create some art with these colors and see what we get. So this is an invitation to you to pull out whatever art supplies you have, whether it's watercolors or pencils or pens or crayons or anything that you feel like, and just use some blue. Use a couple blues, one blue, whatever it is that you feel like, and just muck about and have some fun. So that's what we're going to do today. And then I pulled out every single palette just for fun, because they look so pretty when they're out, don't they? But, you know, it's fun to have a little bit of different colors to accent the blue. So I also have one of my favorites with some blue shades in it. And then this old chestnut, this old Prima Marketing, which has one of the most beautiful blues. I don't really know what it is because they don't use the pigment, they just use a name. But let's get going. So today I'm using good old cheapo Canson XL. Why? As I always say, because it has so much sizing that the paint likes to float on top of it, and it gives me a little bit more playtime, especially when I am trying to create some effects with the water. So I was watching a history on the pigments and the different ways that they were made, and it's very interesting. Something I did know, you might know this as well, but the pigment ultramarine, which is this guy here, is originally made from lapis lazuli. And that is a beautiful stone that you're probably familiar with if you have seen any art from antiquity, with especially the Egyptian. And it's a deep blue stone. And so what they did was they crushed it and then used different chemicals and processes to extract the pigment, and you got this beautiful color. And then at that point, it was only available in the Middle East, where the mines were. And many, many years later, hundreds of years later, in France, they discovered the chemical extraction process, and that's when they first made synthetic paints. So, well, somebody had discovered it earlier in Switzerland, but the French refined it in the mid to late 1800s, and that's where you get the French ultramarine that is affordable, that we can actually use. So, beautiful saturated pigment. And also here we have a lot of other colors, like cerulean and blue violet and Prussian blue, which is another one that's quite well known. And all of these different things. I'll put a link when I post this to that YouTube video with the history, because it was kind of fun. For now, let's play with some blue and see what we get. So in talking about the ultramarine, might as well start with that one. Look at that pigment on that. Absolutely stunning. Now, if you play with watercolors, you already know that what you see in the pan is not necessarily what you're going to get on your paper. So you have to just learn to play with them a bit and explore, make yourself some swatches and see what you get. So I've pre-wet these by using my spritzy bottle beforehand. And I always find that that is the best way to get the pigments just loosened up a little bit. And I think I'm just going to start by doing a little bit of layering and just seeing what I get with some of the colors and how they work together. Okay. One of my favorites that I really love is a Delft Blue by Schmenke, who I can never pronounce, so I always say Schminky, Schmenky, Schmunky. Simky? Schmenky? Sminky? I'm pretty sure it's Schmenky. And I love that color. I think it's really beautiful. So this is quite pretty. Not terribly deep, but I'm going to put some of that Delft Blue that I was just talking about on there, just underneath it. And then let them sort of talk to each other. Ooh, look at that. It's almost like indigo. But there's a light that comes through it that the indigo doesn't have. The indigo is quite gray, depending on which brand, of course. Beautiful. I do love that. I don't know. I've been looking at some Rothkos lately. I think I've been influenced by that to make color blocks because that's always fun. But look at what's happening naturally. Sorry about the crazy light there today. I don't know why I'm apologizing about it. I'm Canadian. That's what we do. But can you see where things are blending together? Beautiful. I love when that happens. I think I might just layer up some colors and see how we feel about it. Let's see. Who else do we like? I think I might actually pull out one of these guys. Now, this little palette I put together a while ago, I love these colors together. They're just incredible. In here, we have sodalite. Now, sodalite is an actual crystal that they have, like lapis lazuli, broken down and then use different chemicals to extract pigment from it. And you might not know this about me, but I used to have an online crystal shop for many, many years. So I have a lot of familiarity with sodalite and the different not brands, but the different qualities from different mines, and always ethically sourced if you can. Just a little PSA, folks. If you're buying crystals, see if you can find out if they're ethically sourced, because they cause a lot of havoc to the environment, and not just the environment, the animals and the people that are involved in the mining process. So if you can, do try to shop smart around that sort of thing. There are many people that offer the products in a way that is sustainable and ethical. So I'm just doing a little bit of, hi, how are ya? Letting it bleed. This is going to end up being trees. I can already tell. Sometimes I do these paintings and then I turn them upside down. I'm like, oh, I have inadvertently painted a landscape. Ta ta ta. Okay. Let's see. Well, if that's going to be the way things are going, maybe I will try this lunar blue. I'll grab myself a piece of paper just to see what color I'm dealing with here. Ooh, that's pretty. It's got a lot of green in it, doesn't it? Gorgeous color. I think that's actually blue apatite, which is another crystal. Sometimes things in my palette fall out and they end up going somewhere different. So I'm not 100% sure what this is. I think I'm going to put it up here. Very, very similar, but much more green. Do you see the green in there? I'm going to put some water in here. That's pretty. Oh, I love this color. It is so gorgeous. If I'm not mistaken, because I'm not an art historian, I just am fascinated by some of the nerd stuff, but I'm pretty sure Delft would be Dutch. And so that would explain why you see this color in a lot of ceramics and different art from that area in the Netherlands, because that's where this pigment is, I think. Not 100% sure, but I think so. Okay, I'm going to add a little bit of this one. Now, again, I can't tell you what the actual pigment is because they just call it number 92 mist. There you go. This is a cute little palette from Prima Marketing. If you can still find these, they were my first introduction into semi-professional paints. And I've got to say, like, for the price of these, like $30 Canadian, pretty good. It comes with, tin. It's got the little thumb hook if you like to paint outside. It's got tons of wells in it. You can take the paints out and there's wells underneath, plus a whole row of space if you want to add your own. So, a little shout out for them. Nothing I do is sponsored. I just really like to share what I'm using, and hopefully it's inspirational to people. Anyway, let's add a little bit of this and see what that might look like up here. Ooh, not the color that I was wanting to put there, but that's okay. We might maybe just make this the first one. It's very stripy, but that's okay. Let's turn it upside down and see what happens. Actually, first, I think this Delft blue is already dried, so we're not going to get a lot of mixing here. Little bit. Not too much. Hey, as always, don't forget that when you're playing around, there's no rules, right? So if you want to lift your painting up, bend it, twist it, turn it inside out and upside down, you can do whatever you want. Oh, I like how that's giving this. Look at that. Where the colors are blending. That's actually quite pretty. Let's bring that up to the camera. Look at those colors. Gorge. Okay, I'm going to stand up and see if anyone joined. Oh, hello. Nice to have you guys here. So I'm just playing around with some blue pigments today, trying to inspire you for a weekly art prompt. And I'm intentionally using the word prompt, not challenge, because then we have enough challenges already. You know, words have power. Let's use something that's more fun and a little supportive to each other. Okay, PSA is now over. Let's make blobs. Blobs are always fun. So let's try some blobs. I think, it's just one of those days where it's cloudy and the light just keeps shifting in and out. So I'm hoping you guys can see what I'm doing because I can, in my personal space, it almost looks like a strobe light going off. Anyway, this is a lavender color. This is by Daniel Smith, and it came in a palette, which is classic me. Oh, I'm never going to use these colors because there was lavender and then there was like a pinkish color and a bunch of stuff. And I was like, I'll never use them. I end up using them all the time, which I find quite amusing. So there you go. All right, Blob 1. Now I'm not going to have enough time today to let this dry as much as I would like to because it's quite wet. But the cool thing is, as you saw in the previous play, this guy here, when your paper gets to a certain saturation point of dampness with I want to say the word moisture, and I know it freaks people out, but I said it, and I said what I said. When the paper is moist, you have different abilities to play with it. You can add more color. You can take color away. You can get a tool and scratch into it. You can do all sorts of things. I'm going to let this guy just be. But on here, what I want to do eventually is maybe put different colors and then link them at the center point and see if we can't get a little bit of color to run into each other without causing too much trouble. And then I might introduce maybe something in this tone, just because I love green and blue together. Green and blue, blue and brown always work. Whenever you're stumped in a painting or an art project or doing something creative and you need an idea, then those color combinations are always beautiful. Okay, let's do something really crazy. Let's do some phthalo blue. Now, if you're not familiar, anything phthalo, and that's how do you spell it? PHT or PTHALO, I think. They're always extraordinarily saturated. I know there is some sort of chemistry behind that. I can't tell you what it is at the moment because I haven't done the research, but I will tell you that a little bit will go a long way. So if you're buying paint for the first time and you're trying to figure out what to get, if you get a tube of phthalo, it's extraordinarily saturated and it's going to last you a lifetime. But also you might not use it that often simply because they're very bright. They're like intense poster colors that you would see. Super bright, catch a lot of attention. Not always the best for mixing because sometimes they will make muddy colors, but they are quite stunning. I'm going to put some water in that, and then I'm going to do that. Ooh! Now, the beauty of working with watercolors is they love to interact with each other. Some love it and some hate it, and that's where you get really interesting effects because depending on the type of pigment, things are going to push and pull each other around. I talk about this all the time, actually. So we're looking at viscosity, we're looking at density of pigment, we're looking at the way the paper is sitting on the table and how it's buckling, and that determines how things are going to move. So that is the joy and the frustration of working with watercolors because you never know what they're going to do. You can kind of plan it, but you cannot control it. Okay, this, I believe, this is Soda Light. No, which one is this? I lie. Lunar blue, I think this is. Yeah, which is kind of a light blue. This is one of the Daniel Smith paints that many people are familiar with. I'd say Moonglow, Lunar Blue. There's another one people really love, or ones that they tend to buy. You know, massive generalization and jazz like that, but it is one that is quite popular for a lot of people. This one especially because it granulates, meaning that there are pigments in here that are heavier than the others, usually different colors. And so what happens is when it dries, it begins to separate. And so the heavier pigments will sink, the lighters will stay a bit higher, and you get that beautiful texture. You can actually see it here, but you probably can't because the camera's too far away. We'll just pull this all the way up. So you see how it's starting to granulate already. Isn't that pretty? Whee! Now this is totally goofing around. You know, these colors are kind of discordant, but I don't really care. It's just for fun. Just for fun. Let's see. Hey, let's have audience participation. What do you want to see as the next color blob? Should we go into the purples? Should we go into a Payne's gray with a bit of blue undertone? Maybe cerulean? Let me know. Let me know in the comments what you think. I think maybe this one. What do we think? This core turquoise it's actually called cobalt teal, but it's super turquoise. Let's do that one. I'll leave this up here for a second and mix the paint in the background. You can let me know if there's something on here that you think should be the next color blob. Welcome to Painting with Tanya. Today we're making blobs. Blobs are fun. Let's see. Let's make a circle. Ish. That's my circle. Yeah. That's all right. Look, I do realistic portraits mostly, so for me, when I get to not do realistic portraits, it's really fun to just goof around. Now, remember what I was saying before about the moist paper? It's super moist. Anyway, it gets to a point where you can create some really fun, magical things. So if I take some of this turquoise and start to put it in here, you get some really interesting effects. So I'm going to put just a little bit. Let's see if I can get this closer. And just let that push some pigment around a little bit. Oh, okay. Is it me or does that look like the auroras? That's pretty. Unintentional discovery. I might have to do a painting later using that technique. That's fun. Ooh, that's nice. We'll put that to the side. Okay, here we are back here. Things are quite wet in the blob zone. And I think I'm going to take a look at the pigment in my water already. Very heavily pigmented, some of these. I'm just going to get a moist brush here and we're going to just connect the dots a little bit and see what happens. So just out of curiosity, and I know sometimes you like to watch and not interact, and that's cool too. But if you feel like popping a comment in, that'd be awesome. Let me know if you are doing any art these days, and not necessarily having to be painting, but whatever kind of art with whatever kind of medium. Let me know if you are using blues, because as I said at the beginning of this live, the blues are everywhere right now. And I've never been one for trends, to be totally honest, but I rarely see something like this where everything coming up on my feed lately has been blue. Now, that could just be the algorithm, but also I think there's a lot happening with different people all sort of connecting in, coming to the same sort of conclusion, and then everything turns to be blue. Same sort of thing happens in fashion, doesn't it? Where people are, let's see, we're going to go dark. Maybe some of that Delft blue on the bottom here. Same thing happens where It's like a collective consciousness thing, you know? One person starts it, then another is doing it, then another is doing it, and the next thing you know, it's all over the place. Ooh, that's pretty. See, this is the kind of thing when I started watercolors that I was seeing everywhere, where people would do one color that bled into the other, and you ended up with these absolutely stunning shapes, and just having fun with that. And then I tried to replicate it, and I could never do it. And then I realized that a lot of the time, it's unplanned. That is the beauty of the watercoloring. Now, remember what I was saying about how some of them fight? These are fighting. These two do not want to mix together, whereas these guys are all about hanging out and making a whole different color together. And these ones, no, they're just doing that. So that's fine. I'm going to turn this upside down. And I'm going to add a little bit of that dark blue just in here, because I always have this propensity to put dots on things. I don't know why. Gives a bit of texture or something. I have no idea. I think it's because I used to do a lot of ink drawings and I did a lot of pointillism work. There's just something fun about that. Dot, dot, dot. Looks almost like an egg, doesn't it? Interesting. Okay. Now, remember before I said I wanted to add a little bit of some green, and Daniel Smith green gold is just, look at this color. So gorgeous. So I'm going to put a little bit of that just somewhere, because things are still quite wet. I think this is gorgeous the way that it is. I don't want to touch it, so I think we're going to just add, oh, that's dry. A little bit where it's wet is always fun. Whee! Oh, it looks so yellow against that turquoise color, doesn't it? I'm not loving that. I'm going to have to add some more something later. But now I want to play and do one more. So we're going to put this guy to the side and let it do its little watercolor mixing magic, because the paper is buckling and it is starting to shift, which is up. There's up. And since I have this on my brush anyway, might as well just go for it and see what we feel like. I think actually, instead of doing blobs, I'm going to do maybe some gradient type color, because gradient colors can be really pretty. Ooh, look at that. This is one of those paints that loves the water, because of course it's got a lot of yellow in it. And you know, if you've seen my videos before, you've heard me say it, yellow is the schoolyard bully of the paint palette, because it will get in there and push everything around and take over. So it's a fun thing to know and to use that a little bit in your back of your mind when you're planning stuff. If you're a planner, I am totally not. Like doing things intuitively. But if you are somebody who's a planner and you like to do that, then that's fun, because you can use those pigments around each other. Now, I know that this with that Delft blue is going to be gorgeous together, because those colors are going to ping right off of each other. So that's what's coming up next. And I think I'm going to start it here. Oh, look at that color. Oh. Go on to a bit more water. And I think these two are going to say hello to each other. Oh, that's pretty already. Look at that. Just like that. Beautiful. I do love when this sort of thing happens by itself. Now look at the separation of the pigments. You see how that yellow is pushing the blue? And look at what we're getting in the color here. Isn't that amazing? Now, the biggest challenge, personal challenge, is that I have a propensity to mess with stuff. And yeah, if I can just leave that alone, that might dry beautifully. Or it might just dry muddy. I don't know. But look at what's happening here. Gorgeous. I've seen this in paintings where people do this in a huge scale. I've never been able to figure out how they do it. I think it's not just a watercolor, but maybe some other things combined. But that is just really pretty. Let's put this up here a little bit. Oh, that's really neat. Let's make another one and see what we can get with some more color combos. I think maybe that turquoise, because that's super bright in this kind of a. Oh, all right, wants to go there. Add a lot of water. A lot of water. A lot of water. Like that. I think maybe Prussian blue would be pretty. Let's try that. Mixy mixy. Let's see how these two interact, if they're going to push and pull or if they're just going to be static. Wah, wah. So disappointed. I was expecting this big movement, but not much happened there, did it? Well, that's okay. Maybe this will be like a gradient situation where it kind of goes dark to light. We'll see. Let's see. Let's go a little darker. I think maybe some Payne's gray is nice. I'm not sure if that's what this is. I think this one got moved, and I have a feeling this is purple. Let's see. It's always really nice to have little bits of paper from failed experiments and whatnot kicking around so that you can see what you've got going on before you do it. Oh, that's quite dark. Let's do it. Let's do it. Oh, look what happened when I was mucking around. That's really pretty. I'm going to leave that alone. I'm just going to tap this in and let that color go. Do what it wants to do. Pretty. So this is giving a very stormy kind of a feeling. I actually did paint storms at one point, and I really loved the way that the colors would mix, and the layering could create these beautiful effects where it actually looked like the clouds were rolling in on top of each other, and you would get the beautiful, dark, ominous feeling, but then also the light coming through. So watercolor really does have a heck of a lot of applications where you can create beautiful effects with it. Playing with abstraction and not thinking about what I'm doing is really a lot of fun because it frees the mind up to just let things happen. And I think that's really important, especially these days, right? We really need a break from all the craziness going around. Love what's happening here. Now it is going to dry really dull. I can already tell that just looking at it, but that's okay. Let's see what's going on over here with this guy. Well, those ones are doing their thing. So this one is still quite wet up at the top. And you know what? I'm going to just play with that and let it do its thing like that. And let it just shimmy a little bit into some colors. And of course, everything else is moving around. All right. So I think a little bit more on this guy. And this one is having its happy little trees moment because, it wouldn't be one of my shows if I didn't quote Bob Ross. Not that I covet the guy and all of his techniques. I just love that he was a goober and he was unabashedly himself. And, you got to respect that. It's a wonderful thing when people can do that. Plus, gosh, didn't he have the most beautiful voice? You could just sit and listen to him painting forever and not be thinking about anything at all. Just enjoy the quietude that he would bring. All right, let's do one more color combo and see what we get. Maybe, let's see, who did we not play with? I think we didn't play with this. I'm not sure if that's oh, that's Payne's gray. That's like dark, which is fine because that's kind of the vibe I'm having. Let's grab a brush that holds lots of water. And for those of you who didn't know, I actually have another publication on Substack called The Artful Desk, where all I do is interview artists and talk about their work setup and their art supplies and the work that they do. And the very first issue was me talking about my desk because I didn't have anyone to interview at that point. And this is one of my favorite art supplies that I wanted to share. It's a brush by Kazan. And I discovered this on the recommendation of my local art supply store. And it's a very moderate to low price, but wow, the quality of these is so good. It's synthetic. I only use synthetic brushes because I really can't handle how the other ones are made. And why would we support that? But the water that this holds is phenomenal. So if you're looking for a nice brush at a good price point, whether you're just starting or if you're, someone who likes to collect brushes, I highly recommend the Kazan line. Whoa, look at what's happening here. That is fabulous. Whee! Look at it go. Crawling, crawling, crawling. That is a beautiful deep Payne's gray by Core. Core is a line that has really saturated colors. They're absolutely fantastic. Really recommend. One of these will last you a painter's lifetime because unless you use it all the time, they're just so saturated and beautiful. So highly suggest them for playing around. Okay. Meanwhile, this is about deep blue. I'm doing green, but that's okay. We're going to introduce some deep blue in here. So you know what? I'm going to put a bit of blue violet in here, just at the base. And you probably won't see it when that dries up. Oh, look, they're starting to bleed. I like that. Bleedy, bleedy town. Okay. Wow, look at this. Pigment wants to go into the water and become part of everything else, as they do. Now you see how I connected that? And now we've got the water pushing back, but the pigments are fighting a little bit. And so this is where you get that really interesting, the swirls and the way that they come in. And this effect here, which many artists hate, but I love it. It's called the broccoli effect. I don't know what the real term is, but I call it that. The broccoli effect, where you have water that pushes your pigment back and it creates sort of a flowery edge. But I think that looks really interesting and I like it, so I'm leaving it. All right, here's one we haven't played with. One of the infamous Prisma paint colors that have no name other than number 23. So number 23 it is. Just on the edge a bit. And I feel like I want to go into this Delft blue down here. Where? Maybe here. I'm not sure how that's going to dry because these colors are very similar in tone. That is part of the fun, though, isn't it? So I'm just randomly dropping some water. Let's see how that goes. I'm going to leave that white spot just for visual interest. And I'm going to add... Actually, I'm not going to add anything to that. I'm going to leave it because I think that's quite interesting. And I think just because I like stuff in threes, threes are fun. We're going to do one more and then I think that might be it. Hey, guess what? It's time for shameless self-promotion. Ta-da! So my other profile, The Artful Desk, there's a new interview coming out next week. I'm going to be interviewing a wonderful artist named Melissa Sly, and we're going to talk all about her setup and her art supplies and why she loves what she does, and she's going to share some of her art. And the lives are free for anybody, so come on over and join us. So there we go. That's my little pitch over. Okay, one last color pop. Let's see. Who do we want to do? Do you see how that purple is just mucking around in here? That is stunning. Who do we want to mess with? I think I'm going to stay a little bit in some of the same color tones. I'm going to start with a dark purple, but then go into a deep blue at the base again. There's that Delft blue again because why not? Ooh, gorgeous. Gorgeous, darling. Look at that. Oh, stunning. I think that might actually I might just have to stay like that. Yep. Oh, I'm so proud of my self-control today. You have no idea. I just want to go in there and put dots, but I'm not gonna. I'm gonna just let it be. I'm gonna let it be and let them pool like that and do their thing. So I'm gonna slide those off to the side for a moment. And I'm gonna grab one of the other ones and just finish up with those. There's this guy. That actually ended up making a texture almost like when you put salt, so that's interesting. And you can see how some of these are granulated paints. You see where that moved the color around like that? And you can see that almost black pigment there. Beautiful texture. Love that. So that one's kind of like an Inukshuk, which I like. I kind of dig it. And this guy, which we started out this way. Wow, I love how that turquoise played with the blue. Let's just go into a spot where there's not crazy sunlight. Didn't that come out beautifully? I'm going to have to watch this back because I cannot remember how I did that and what color that is. Anyway, you know the cool thing about abstract art? It doesn't matter which way you put it. You're going to see something in everything. Is it a hamburger? Is it a landscape? Is it just stripes? It doesn't really matter. If it speaks to you, then that's all that's important. A little bit of fun today, painting with blue paints. I hope you enjoyed that and the process, and that maybe it inspires you to pull out some art supplies today. Maybe you were, working alongside with me and having some fun listening to me chit-chat about paints. And maybe it makes you feel like you've got a little moment of just some quietude away from all the chaos and crazy that is outside of us, sometimes inside too. So there we go. Well, thank you guys for hanging out with me today. I really appreciate you being here. And if you haven't yet, please subscribe. All my content is free at Tanya QC Art, and I'm really happy to have you here and enjoy doing this with you. Right. Thanks so much for hanging out. I will catch you guys next time. Okay. See you soon. Bye.